This afternoon I have two radios, the Tecsun PL380 here and the Tecsun PL330 here. Despite this being a higher number, this is a quite a bit older radio, and this would be a more modern and higher line radio. What I'm going to do is run an ETM scan, which is Tecsun's Easy Tuning Mode, I believe it stands for. I'm going to run it with the bandwidth in the widest position on both these radios, which for the, I'll turn that down, for the 380 is, one of the irritations of the 380 is if you touch the bandwidth switch, it changes, so you've then got to go through the whole thing. In fact, that's one of my biggest complaints about it. Here on the, as you saw, on the 380, that's 6 kilohertz, I believe, and on the 330, which has a more sensitive bandwidth control, it's 5. The bandwidth does affect what it finds in ETM, so let's run that scan and see how many stations we find on, at, I'm just looking at my watch, 3:30 in the afternoon. So the 330 has just finished, and it has found 12 channels. The 380 is still churning away. It's found 1, I think, since it shows 2, so it's looking for the second. It's about halfway through the dial. So let's have a listen to the 330 while we're waiting for that to finish up. So we can see that one of the changes you get is that the 330 is much faster.
The Holy Spirit so humble, he just, he didn't want to say he had glory or something. It doesn't. And from our last time we.
There's definitely something there. It's faint though.
Who believed that the low.
So I would say, of what it found, how many was it again? 12 or something like that? All but 2 or 3 are a real signal. Not too bad, right? Now, let's change the AM bandwidth switch here. Okay, let's change it to, well, we'll narrow it. This only has 3 positions on this radio. 5, 3.5, and 2.5. Let's set it at 2.5, and let's do the ETM scan again. Meanwhile, it's now found 2. So we'll pause and then get to the PL380. Okay, the 380's finished up. Let's see what we got.
Have already been given glory, even though they don't even council. The Jerusalem council has.
There's carrier there for sure. I've got the where's the display button on this? I haven't used this radio for a little while. There we go. Oh, I don't know. Okay. So as you can see, it works. Now let's change the bandwidth to this radio. I like to use it at 2 kilohertz for ETM scanning. So let's run the ETM scan again. There we go. There's the button. And let's see how much better that does. Meanwhile, over here, the 330 is just finishing up. And it got 7. So, I don't know, maybe I misread how many it got last time. I'll have to look at the video. But
His talent. The son of David. Them that are with their minute. Ya por la nariz.
And there's, we can put it in sync mode. That's not what I intended to do though. Okay, there. Sometimes worth a try. And you can hear the difference that the bandwidth makes in terms of the high frequency response.
I believe it.
I can. So what you can see is that, well, the bandwidth control on the 330 does have some minor effect on the number of stations it will receive. It's fairly minimal, and you really don't need to worry about it too much if you're just, you know, having a quick look. Some considerable time later, we've got the Tecsun. So let's see what we got. I mean the PL380. They're both Texans.
You can also watch it.
The bandwidth is still set at 2K, I believe. This radio is pretty good at 4.
Chapter 6. Same good.
So you can see that they behave quite differently there. I mean, conditions are changing fairly quickly at this time in the afternoon, so the fact that they don't always pull in exactly the same stations shouldn't be that surprising. But the radios behave quite differently. They give you slightly different numbers of stations. But as you can see, the PL380 is quite sensitive to the bandwidth switch position. 330 less so. I don't know what to say. I will say that one of the things I always liked, I really liked the form factor of the 380. I mean, it's chunky. It's got 3 AA's in it, so it's pretty heavy. Like, it feels pretty solid. The buttons are actually the same size as the 330, and because they use the side as opposed to having the little knobby things like on the 330, it's pretty good. So I mean, I really quite like this radio. It feels very solid to use, in some ways more solid than the 330. But the improved ETM, I mean, it's more reliable on the 330. It tends to get you more. It's not as affected by the bandwidth switch. And of course, unlike the 380, the 330 has very good single sideband performance, and it's got a sync function. The other thing that I'll say is that when the 380 came out, there was a lot of talk about its AM performance. Sorry, break to chase a fly away from my drink. But there was a lot of talk about its AM performance. And its AM performance is really pretty good for a small radio, but it does sort of peter out at the top of the North American medium wave AM band, right? And so there are a lot of, people put external antennas on it and all sorts of things. And there's no way of plugging an external antenna into this. This doesn't seem to have the failing at the upper AM band. It's good. It's really good for a radio of its size. And it's not a magic DX machine, but you can pull in the 50,000 watt stations across the Northeast, no problem with this. Won't give you any difficulty. And if you wanted to put an antenna on, it's got an antenna jack, which goes into AM and FM. So you have that option, which with the 380, you'd have to use some sort of coupling antenna, like a loop.